Welcome in the latest episode of the Need for Seeds College Basketball Podcast presented to you by Nobody. We are 12 and 4, 75% on our best bets. I somehow 7 and 1, picking every game of about 50%, but the best bets have been winners. At Big East Ben, we just finished the Sweet 16. It was quite the climax, and that's all we're doing, climaxing all over this episode. So what do you want to start with, the Sweet 16 and how it whittled down to the Elite Eight? We actually, before we get into that, address what we're doing this episode. We're going to do a recap of Sweet 16. We'll talk a little bit coaching carousel, then we'll go through each of the games, find a best bet, and then get out of here. Go ahead. What do you got on Sweet 16?
So I made a big mistake on Thursday. I moved my flight up so I would be home for the night games, and I was flying for the good games. So I had to watch Texas, Purdue, Nebraska, Iowa on my iPhone with shitty plane Wi-Fi, constantly going in and out. I couldn't do multi-view because it doesn't look good on an iPhone, and the stupid NCAA started these games at exactly the same time. I know a lot of people are complaining on Twitter about it, but like that's bullshit. What, like, they got it right last night, but starting these games at the same time was absolutely ridiculous. It totally screwed me. So I mostly watched Texas Purdue. I texted you guys. I said, "How the hell were you guys so mediocre in the regular season, Texas? You and Brooks." Traymar Mark was amazing. The degree of shot difficulty was absolutely insane. Refs absolutely screwed Texas, letting TKR just whatever TKR does, we'll just go with it. We'll just go with it. Just absolute bullshit. So since Purdue invented the hook and hold, they can't get called for a hook and hold. Is that my
No,
understanding?
they get it called offsetting hook and holds, which I still don't understand. And if you were watching on video on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify at Betting the Pitch or on YouTube at the real underscore G Warner, I was flopping like a fish because that's what TKR was doing the whole day. Every time there's any sort of contact, it looked like he just got stabbed in the throat. And it was honestly amazing to me that the refs continue to buy it, but refereeing is still always a problem, unfortunately, and it literally grinds my gears, if I could use a Marquette 84 type of comment. But yeah, I mean, Texas was not that good this year because they didn't defend. I guess that improved a little bit in the NCAA tournament, and then Tremont Mark was super hot, and I'm still looking for the "I Love Tremont" shirts that his, I think, mother and girlfriend were wearing at the game because they would look awesome, and I would definitely wear one. With that said, Vogtitis in foul trouble the whole game. That makes sense because that's like what all he does. And some of the calls were pretty soft slash questionable. Getting a flagrant one after his cylinder was invaded, that was ridiculous. I don't even know.
I thought that was a flagrant.
You could have called it.
That was a violent bow, dude.
Well, sure, but like you can't call it if you're.
I didn't think he was in the cylinder.
Well, then don't call that. But they called him in the cylinder, so then they're calling a dead ball technical foul when the whistle was in the same millisecond. Like, that's ridiculous. So I'm fine if you call it.
My Wi-Fi was out when they explained that.
So they called a cylinder foul on Oscar Clough and then called a dead ball technical, which is absolutely ridiculous because they're happening simultaneously. Yes, one happened before the other, but like that's a joke. Never seen that called before in the history of ridiculous, bogus NCAA decisions. Gene Steratore coming on and literally getting every call predicted wrong is also hilarious. They're not even asking him anymore. They're bringing him after to diagnose what happened because he's clearly at best an NFL guy who brings out note cards for godforsaken reasons. That was brutal. And I think the first night, I mean, they were supposed to start 20 minutes apart. I think they did that. But the second night was a much bigger difference from when the game was supposed to start versus when it actually tipped off the second one.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was one of those games where if you didn't have two screens, it was pretty rough trying to keep up with what was going on. We saw, I mean, ultimately, the Iowa game was also spectacular. You wanna go about that one?
Yeah, so I had the under in that one. That was hilarious. 84 points in the first half.
Total was 61, I believe.
Yep, rapid pace. No one can mess. I'm kicking myself for not betting the live under at halftime, which was at 158, which I think hit by 10 points as it really slowed down and Nebraska couldn't make a bucket. Shout out Fred Hoiberg. That's a legitimate complaint. The ref should be able to help you know how many players you have on the court in critical under 1 minute. uh, game situations.
I mean, seeing our guy Rick Mast, who has been affixed to our Canva graphic for most of the season, or at least most of the NCAA tournament, seeing him sprinting, saying having his oh shit moment and sprinting off the bench as Vulgaris is alone for a dunk, I believe. That was hilarious. And so yeah, that's the refs are not supposed to let that happen is kind of our takeaway.
No, I mean, that you need to know. The ref should know if there's six guys on the court. They shouldn't tell you if you only have four guys on the court. That's almost as bullshit as Oates in this post game complaining about not having Betty Acko, which we'll talk about later. But yeah, man, shout out to Iowa. They're cooking. That's going to be an interesting one today.
Yeah, so we're gonna go through. I guess that's all we're gonna address in the Sweet 16.
No, no, I like to talk about all the games. So Houston,
Illinois.
Illinois. Houston was my best bet, and Houston couldn't make shots. And Illinois did a great job of baiting the wrong guys into taking shots. Curtis Sanak, that baseline jumper.
Chris
I
Sinak,
think
literally 1 for 7. He started, and I actually looked at the shot chart. It was not exactly a Nevada Smith designed. All long twos from the baseline. None really looked like they had a chance. Apparently, one went in, but 1 for 7. That's not really how to do it. Not a great start. And then, I mean,
Mercy Miller 0 for 4. He was shooting a ton in the first half. And then Kingston Fleming's like, he got no easy buckets. He got nothing at the rim. It was either threes or, fadeaways from the top of the key, basically. So credit to Illinois. They baited Houston to make shots, and Houston could not make shots.
and then Arizona and Arkansas.
Barely watched that game. That was a double digit lead for Arizona right off the bat, and they never looked back.
Yeah, Arkansas. I mean, Darius Acuff. You could argue that he's not going to be a defender in the NBA. But then again, how many are? With all that said, he was scoring on drives to the basket seemingly at will, but they were already down like 15 points, so those weren't really making a big difference. Um, Hilarious technical from Nick Pringle, showing that he was frustrated alongside the rest of the team, just spiking the ball literally and almost hitting the rafters of a actual basketball stadium and like the football stadiums we're about to go into next weekend in Indianapolis. But Arkansas, I mean, big spread. Calipari undefeated as an underdog in the NCAA tournament, both with Kentucky and Arkansas. Well, that's gone now. And Arizona honestly just looks like a juggernaut at this point. They are gigantic. They are just thicker than everyone else. And I don't know how they do it, but even Karchenkov is awesome at defending and just running around screens and chasing players. And I think
And
Arkansas
get him the hoop and get him fouled. Like, he's
I mean,
awesome.
but it's like it doesn't even matter if they get fouled because they're so thick they don't even feel it. I mean, it's wild. Trayvon Brazil, I think, did his best. I mean, what an athlete he is. But I think that was the right winner in that matchup. And so then we moved to Friday, which was I think a little bit more staggered of a game, or games plural. Where do you want to start there?
I guess we'll start with Duke St. John's. Let me ask you this. If Jordan Pope doesn't come out saying he played on a broken foot, does Caleb Foster suit up for Duke?
It seemed based on all the pregame whatever stuff that was going on that he was playing and that John Shire promised him if he spent his entire life in the rehab facility. Sorry for the team doctor and such, but that he was going to get on the floor. And then Jordan Pope, shout out, what an awesome warrior of a guy playing on a broken foot and making a bunch of shots that kept Texas in that game with Purdue for a while before the Tremont Marks show started. But Caleb Foster, I mean, I wasn't really expecting much. They just went to him down the stretch and he won that game.
Yeah, I mean, that was awesome. I thought the Johnnies were going to pull out. They made it chaotic. They were forcing Duke into turnovers, especially at the start of that second half. Zuby Ejiofor had like three just breakaway dunks, which were awesome. I guess Rick was listening to the podcast on Friday because he absolutely gave Ruben Prey the green light, 4 or 4 from three. I was patting myself on the back for that one. But Duke was just too much at the end there. You know, that Caleb Foster shot, that insane and one from Cam Boozer driving like 10
I mean,
feet.
Ian Jackson, get whatever team Ian Jackson's on. I'm taking him to ruin it for them. Whether he's sitting out for Ramadan and just absolutely not performing for UNC, Or, I mean, he literally just ran. So there was like an angle to the basket, and Ian Jackson just completely violated all of that and ran through Boozer, who's like not even gonna feel him. Speaking of Arizona size, I mean, the bigger Boozer. I don't know how twins are that different in size at this point, but that was a great finish. Ian Jackson also getting a flagrant foul, running through a screen, putting his hand on somebody's face as well. Like,
That was soft.
I mean, I get it though, but like, I just feel like while he has some big time highlight moments, I don't know if that's really the type of player I want on my team. Because I mean, probably didn't change too much. I think the game was lost when St. John's had double digit leads in the second half and just didn't do enough to hold
Well,
on to
dude,
it at the time.
it's St. John's gets a lead, and it's like, okay, Ian Jackson, okay, Joe Sansonon, go miss 3-pointers. Like every both in the Kansas game and this game. I don't get it.
If only they had a disciplinarian as a head coach who might, I don't know, have spent 40 years in this type of position and could figure that out. I because Ian, speaking of Ian Jackson, not to make this an anti-Ian Jackson podcast, but he made just a huge, ridiculous like 25 seconds left or 20 seconds left on the shot clock, just ripping a three when they're in the lead with big momentum, and everyone in the commentator booth is like, "Why did he shoot that?" And just like brick, dud, whatever off the backboard rim combo. And I don't know, brings me back. I want to say Mike Singletary can't win with him, type of people. Next game in that window was
Michigan, Alabama, which by the time I was very locked in on St. John's Duke, by the time I kind of focused on Michigan, Alabama, it was pretty much decided. I saw Alabama got off hot really off the bat. I think they had a 10-point lead early on, but ultimately, Yaxel, Mara, Cadeau was hitting threes. It looked like they were sagging
yeah.
off a bit.
Mara was basically not a factor in that game, which is kind of bizarre. Ellie Cadeau made some important threes that really kind of made Alabama stagger. And pretty much what was it just a tale of two halves. Second half, Michigan decided to slow the pace and use their defense, and Alabama didn't shoot as well. I think really Alabama got a lot of contributions from their non-LeBaron Philons for a while. Could have probably used Aiden Holloway in this matchup, but he's too big trying to be the kingpin of T-Town, not Tulsa, Tuscaloosa.
Well, there was
And
rumors he was gonna he got some order from a Tuscaloosa judge to travel with the team.
no, that only works for big men when I bet Auburn against them, actually. And to be frank, like Alabama was close to covering that full game spread. I mean, first half they were looking like they were off to a great start and almost looked like they got outside the number for a little bit. I could close the first half, but really the shots just became Phylon only after a little while, and they locked him down. Michigan still is gigantic, and honestly, one thing I hadn't seen a lot this season, we've seen Yaxel Lendenborg guarding the point guard or whoever's the most important player on the other team. Saw it late in the game. Morez Johnson also taking that mantle or that responsibility, which is even more scary if they've got two big guys. They're going to guard point guards and really shut them down. Length was a factor. Length bothered them, and that's how it went. Next, we'll go to UConn and Michigan State. Did Michigan State miss that free throw intentionally late?
Cooper.
Yeah. Down three at the line with 4.6 to go. Makes the first pretty pure. They Michigan State did not call timeout, so that was not the full indicator, I don't think, but UConn did, which is surprising. But then we see a short free throw, but it was right on line. I don't think Michigan State missed
I
it.
don't think that was missed on purpose either. 4.5 seconds left.
The booth is like sure they were doing it on purpose, but welcome to the world of just everyone from. I do like that they have more college guys this year, like Brandon Godden having the Nebraska Vanderbilt game was awesome. Excited for him to just slurp down John Smoltz and Tom Glavine, whoever he's working with on the Braves broadcasts starting yesterday. But he was great. I thought I like Robbie Hummel being on the games, but we just we're stuck with the NBA guys. And then the Jason.
Oh, I said, well, who would be of all the guys doing the tournament? If you had to have a color guy, or a play-by-play guy, and two color guys, and a sideline reporter, what's your dream team if you could assemble from all the broadcasting units?
I'd go Brian Anderson, Dick Vitale, and Charles Barkley. Oh wait, we had that in the opener of the first four, and it was terrible. Brian Anderson had no voice, and Dick Vitale and Charles Barkley were talking about NIL the whole time. No, I would probably go. I really like Iron Eagle and Raftery are great. I don't really know that I need a third person. I don't really like the three-person booths. I feel like it's everyone trying to find ways to get in there. And Grant Hill, I don't care what he says.
I said Iron Eagle, Raftery, and I like Van Gundy. I think Van
Van
Gundy
Gundy's
actually
good.
like calls guys out on their bullshit. And then sideline reporter Ali LaForce.
Mm, uh, I'm surprised you didn't say Jenny Dell for the Sickos committee on this podcast. I'd actually go against my better judgment because we'll see how this goes. I'll go Evan Washburn. I think he's the best.
Yay.
Yeah, for a lacrosse guy to make it to this level, and they're literally even just stacking the towels on his head. I don't know. Thought he was Bin Laden for a second. Other game on the list. Well, I guess to finish the conclude discussion of Connecticut and Michigan State. Um, Michigan State got off to a really bad start. Izzo, I'm really surprised, but relented on his two big strategy. Twin Towers has not really worked in years. Area 51, maybe with Michigan last year, but Michigan State ended up going to a smaller lineup to try to combat UConn. Um, what eventually things turned around. UConn stopped making every shot. Michigan State started to do a little bit. I mean, Jeremy Fears, 90% free throw shooter, missing a front end of a 1-on-1 was pretty big. And then, honestly, Michigan State got in the game, took the lead, and then just some really big mental breakdowns. And I got to say, the fouling 86% free throw shooters at the end of the game when you didn't have to foul that specific person just is driving me crazy. It flashbacks to Miami against Purdue, and then last night fouling Caravan. Got anything to say about your 11.99 jersey?
Dude, I think he was listening. Since I trashed the value of the autograph jersey, he's been incredible. So,
He's been awesome. Last night, weird homo moment with Dan Hurley on camera. Basically, it's really awkward, but whatever. Coach or something like that. As Dan Hurley was walking away, and the microphone gets turned to him. Other game to discuss was, I guess, the last that we'll get to on this list. That was Tennessee and Iowa State. That was the best bet winner for me. Now 7-1, 85%, I think, so far in this tournament. Felt like an easy one.
no Joshua Jefferson, just
Who
domination.
thought he was gonna play? Like
I
what?
don't know.
What?
I don't
He was
know.
crying when he's walking off the court like a week ago. I mean,
I think it was just the fact that it was the last game of the Sweet 16, and people thought that time frame would have given him a chance.
I guess a few of us in this world play fantasy football, and high ankle sprains at best is what that was. And all of a sudden, he's playing through it. I guess he's no Jordan Pope, but Iowa State extremely average. Did you see Rick Barnes' defense last night?
I was more tuned in on UConn.
So it was the box and one, except there wasn't a box. It was just man to man, everybody else, and Boswell face guarding Momcilovic, who had two shots for the first 35 minutes. Without him, I think Rick Barnes, not really the head off the snake, because that's usually a point guard, but Rick Barnes, great job by him. Nate Ament, just forever, or Ament, just forever, just wanted me to die with him and Jacoby Gillespie on our point scoring pool roster. But Tennessee looked good. It's going to be hard for me to look away from them. And we'll get, I guess, now into the coaching carousel before we get to the games.
Yeah, I just wanted to just touch quickly because I think the carousel has been absolutely incredible this past week. I wanted to give out a few grades, Griffin, and get your thoughts on them.
Okay.
Chris Mack to USF, F. What the hell did Chris Mack do at Charleston to deserve a highish, not really major job? This guy got suspended from Louisville, started working out at a Planet Fitness during his suspension, and it's been all downhill since. I do not understand why he deserves a chance to move up the ranks.
Well, he was a one seed one time and didn't make it out of the first weekend. So there's that. It helps to have people and friends in high places or something like that. That's all I got.
Jared Calhoun to Cincinnati.
You know,
D. I'm sick of these Utah State coaches. They just walk in there, inherit a really good team, win 27 to 30 games, get a nine, play in the 8-9 game, and move on to a high major job. It didn't work out for Danny Sprinkle. It didn't work out for Kyle Smith. I don't see it working out for Jared Calhoun in the city of Skyline, Chile.
Yeah, well, I'm just most sad for Wes Miller because he was going to get the UNC job if he had done literally anything at Cincinnati, but missed the tournament a million times, choked up a four NCAA tournament win basically against UCF, and we got to see UCF just bumble around in their way into the NCAA tournament. But Jared Calhoun, great zone defense, played one that he couldn't figure out one time, so he's been employing it ever since. I don't know exactly if that's worked, but it did win the Mountain West regular season and conference tournament this year. And I'm just sad he didn't take the Penguins to the NCAA tournament with Youngstown State a couple seasons ago. Next.
Brian Hodgson to Providence.
Yeah.
See,
C. Okay, go ahead.
I hate this guy. I hate this guy already. I hate his corny.
He's got a good joke.
I hate that joke. Uh,
What's his joke, Ben?
if you want to question my recruiting abilities, look at my wife.
Look at my fiance at South Florida,
Fiance.
and then this year my wife at Providence. Yeah,
Yeah. Like, congrats, dude. Congrats, dude, for plowing a student at Alabama when you were in your 30s. Like, nice job. And let's
wait. What do you mean? That reminds me of something.
What does it remind you of?
An attempt from a certain Todd Golden.
Yeah, it worked. It worked out for Brian. Brian Hodgson has more game than Todd Golden.
But Todd Golden is also married with children.
Right?
He
True.
probably shouldn't be hanging around in the back seat of a sexual education course at the University of Florida, and just every day, taking notes.
And then secondly, like, let's pump the brakes on like putting this chick in the same class as like Judy Boeheim. You walk into an Alabama political science 101 class, and I bet you find 40 girls that look exactly like her, fake tan, tons of makeup, super skinny. Andrea Hurley looks like she could break her over her knee. So let's pump the brakes on the Judy Boeheim comparison.
All right, what's a UFC fight? Let's go, Mrs. Hurley against Mrs. Hodgkins. What's the line on that one?
Hurley minus 1200.
Okay, there we go. We'll see if we get FanDuel, our partners, to build one for us.
The reason this grade isn't lower, the last time Providence had a tall, fat guy with bad hair, it worked out pretty well for them.
Okay. Well, hopefully, Brian Hodgson's house doesn't get burned down by his angry lover, as was rumored with Ed Cooley. And then UNC, congratulations on their hire of Brad Stevens.
So there's a rumor out there, I heard, that no Oates would take the UNC job and Hodgson would screw Providence over and take the Bama job. If that happens, I don't think Brian Hodgson makes it out of the state of Rhode Island alive.
Does Brian Hodgson make the same joke again?
I think he does.
I mean, one time, fool on me, or two times, shame on you. 3 times in a row, we're just using the same joke over and over again. Do you have anything else for the coaching carousel?
Quickly, Wes Miller to Charlotte B. He's more pumped up than he's ever been, according to so that's good.
What a fall.
A minus. Jerry McNamara to Syracuse. I know people were clowning Syracuse for going outside the program. There's 3 important things needed to be able to coach basketball. You got to be an X's and O's guy. You got to be able to motivate your guys to play. You got to be able to recruit. NIL kind of takes the recruiting thing out of the occasion. I think McNamara can do both of those, especially motivate guys to play. I respect Jerry McNamara. I think it's a good hire. And then A+, the story of the week. A+ just for entertainment purposes. Will Wade back to LSU. Agent emails the AD. I'm out of here. Posts a ChatGPT generated thank you to NC State. Hops on a plane to LSU. What's the first thing he says when he, drives into the employee parking lot?
Boot up!
I'm going to try to break less rules this time. Or I'm going to try to follow more rules this time. So, all-time scumbag, Will Wade. LSU now has the Lane Kiffin of football, the Lane Kiffin of basketball. I still can't believe Will Wade was on Shaka Smart's staff for 5 years because they are literally antonyms from a principal's perspective.
Oh, well, who gets determined is my question. We'll now go to the Elite Eight. Just so Big Ten doesn't bite my head off through the screen. We'll start with a Saturday. You could just call it the snooze fest, just Big Ten teams because Big Ten's everywhere. And honestly, the Big Ten, well, I guess it did lose Michigan State, but it was nice. They're almost guaranteed a game here as long as Illinois got through Houston. This game is in Houston. Iowa currently 7-point underdogs. Total is 139. We saw this number open at 139. So we haven't had much movement.
When we discussed the Houston, Illinois game, I said how Illinois baited bad shot makers into taking shots for Houston. I don't think Iowa has like really any bad shot makers. If you're going to give the baseline to Koch, if you're going to give the baseline to Fulgaris, they're going to knock it down. Low possession game. I think Iowa can hang in this one. I was very wrong about them picking Florida. Proved me wrong. If I took the under in that game, but if I, was going to bet the line, I would have probably taken Nebraska. Wrong there. I won't be wrong again. I'm going to back the Hawkeyes to cover in this one.
Take the 7. I'll go under 139. I think we see the Eastern Bloc is going to not foul anybody, which is a huge part of unders. Seeing all the points that were scored in the last game, I think was a lot due to Nebraska shooting the lights out. Iowa still won that game. I'm a little unsure about the spread. I mean, it's a pretty big number. We've seen a lot of the fouling late just torch the underdogs of the 9, 10, whatever region late in games, if they were even in games at that point. But Iowa, I mean, their strategy is don't allow for any sort of fast break, which I think is really silly, but it's gotten them to the Elite Eight so far. So who am I to say that? And I need a billion point for Bennett Sturts to maintain our lead in our individual player pool. But I think at this point for me, I think we see a low scoring game, a real grinder. These teams played in Iowa City with Illinois winning by 6 earlier this season. We'll see if that can get recreated. And we'll move to the night game on Saturday, and it is Purdue and Arizona. Currently, a total of 154. The spread is Purdue 5.5-point underdogs. We see them moving from 5.5 to 6 down to 5.5 at present.
The reason Purdue won that game against Texas was that those 20 points from TKR. And I feel like a bunch of those buckets came when Camden Heide was guarding him. There's not going to be a Camden Heide type player guarding him on the Arizona Wildcats. I think they absolutely neutralized TKR. I think Clough, while I love him, I think he's destined for some real foul trouble in this one against the Arizona Bigs. Purdue's defense, 36th in the country, isn't good enough to hang. I know they're a little better than Arkansas. I know they're a little better than Utah State, but a 36th defense, ranked defense, is not going to slow these Wildcats down. I think it's much too short. I'm going to back the Wildcats.
Yeah, number's smaller than I made it. Let me just refresh my own memory about what I did make it. But I am curious, do you think that Purdue has a chance to win this game?
If Lawyer and Smith just shoot and Cox, you need like a legendary 25-point game from like CJ Cox, like something like that to happen for Purdue to have a chance.
Because I think they do have they have the strategy right there. It's make perimeter jump shots.
Yeah.
My question about the Purdue, what they do, because they don't really change their lineups from what I've seen. They're usually two bigs, which is really archaic, but Michigan State somehow got a 3 seed, I think, in the NCAA tournament and the Big Ten doing that. So who knows? But Kaufman Wren on Koa Pete feels like a rough situation on the perimeter. I don't know that there's a lot of like give the ball ISO to Koa Pete though that does much for any sort of issues for TKR. Obviously, foul trouble to him would be a problem. But Clough or Jacobson at the 7-footer on Krivas seem like that's not a horrible matchup. I mean, there's at least 10 fouls to use there on Krivas and Awaka. And I think there is a path to a victory.
You think Jacobson's going to get in this game?
I mean, I think they're going to try not to use him, but they've got 5 more fouls at above 7 feet tall. So I think that's certainly useful.
He's played 13 minutes in this NCAA tournament.
Well, I'm going to say he plays at least 6 in this one. half of his total. I think the guards, I mean, if this is ever a time for Braden Smith to show that he could actually play somewhere else besides West Lafayette, Indiana, maybe like Turkey or Israel or something like that, if they still have a league, who knows with what's going on over there right now. But I think Purdue's got enough to potentially pull off an upset. So I'll take the 5.5, though I don't really know. I want this number to get bigger. I'll put it that way before I get involved. Moving to Sunday, we'll start with Tennessee, 7.5 point underdogs against Michigan. Totals 146.5. We saw Tennessee +7 at the open last night.
Sorry, I'm just bringing up a page. You give your thoughts to first. I'll follow.
Okay, so Tennessee, to me, they are extremely, extremely big, talented, and I feel like have been. I mean, closing a favorite or opening a favorite, I guess, to 3 seed Virginia said something to me as a 6 seed, but doesn't say that much. I think this number is gigantic. I will be taking Tennessee as I really like what I've seen, and honestly, they're in the Elite Eight without a really special game from Nate Ament so far, and we'll see if 6'10", if his height and really his NBA shot making is what to me stood out in the first half yesterday against Iowa State when he still wasn't playing well and got in foul trouble. But I just don't believe in the Michigan backcourt, and so I'm still taking the points. Tennessee +7.5.
Yeah, I'll go under 146.5. Michigan defense, number one in the country. Tennessee, not very efficient from the field. They're only 143rd in the country in effective field goal percentage. Offensive rebounding wise, yes, they're number one in the country. Michigan is 39th in the country at defensive rebounding. And I trust Rick Barnes to throw some looks at Michigan that might confuse them. You made up a good point about the face guarding Momcilovic, something like that to slow Michigan a bit. So I'll go under the 146 total.
All right, and last game on our card, UConn 5 point underdog to Duke, totals 134.
I really wanted St. John's to pull out that game, man.
To get UConn St. John's 3.0, 4.0.
Yeah, that would have been awesome. That would have been an absolute bloodbath. That would have fed
It would have been great
families.
for the flag behind your head.
It would have been great for the flagship conference of college basketball.
The what?
The flagship, I don't know. The best conference in college
I
basketball.
just feel like you're conflating your UMass hashtag flagship and the Big East. But whatever, it's all good. Would have been wild if we had seen a fourth rendition.
Duke's gonna have to make their outside shots because Connecticut it's extremely hard to get to the rim versus Connecticut. Really, besides Isaiah Evans, I don't have a high degree of confidence of anyone on the Duke roster to make their 3 pointers. Um, it's Hurley. It's Hurley in March. He has not lost a tournament game outside of a possession in the last 4 years. I will back the Conference of Champions and UConn in this one.
I'll take UConn +5 as well. And now it's time for the best bet portion of the show. We're doing one for Saturday, one for Sunday. I'll try to remember to get a reel out a little bit earlier today. But life is life, and sometimes I do need to sleep. Got some good hours in last night, though. While we were planning to record Friday night, Ben was a little too "quote unquote" banged up, and he said, "I bet you are too." And I was like, "Nope, haven't had a drop." But it was very nice to sleep in and try to catch, or at least try to move my average sleep time to above 5.5 hours because it hasn't been for what feels like 3 months. Big East Ben, on your Saturday card, we have two options. You could go to Iowa, Illinois, or Purdue, Arizona for your best bet. Where are you going?
I don't have enough faith in the Hawkeyes to make my best bet. I'm going with the Wildcats to smash Boiler up in this one.
Arizona -5.5 for Big East Ben. I'll go under 139, Iowa and Illinois for my best bet. On Sunday, where are we going?
I'm going for backing the Yukon Huskies, possibly to make a return to the Final Four. If not, I think this one is a classic, a close one, and an awesome Sunday afternoon. Yukon +5.5.
Just five, +5. I'll take Tennessee +7.5. And those are our picks for the Elite Eight, trying to get our best bet percentage above 75%, 12-4 so far in this tournament. It's been unreal. I'm still not able to match Big East Ben's undefeated run from a couple seasons ago, but trying to stay.
What was your one? Sorry, what was your one loss?
My one loss was I don't remember. This is good podcasting. Let's see. Big East Ben, let's check out the graphic. It was a horrible, difficult, tough one to take. Was it a double best bet of ours? I hope not. Nope, nope, nope. That was not a loser. In the meantime, while I'm looking this up, who's going to be the head coach at the University of North Carolina?
I still think it's all I know our friend said Otzelberger withdrew himself from consideration. I think that game last night makes Otzelberg reconsider. I'll go Otz.
I'm going to say Mark Byington.
Oh no.
I think
I,
so.
come
I
on.
think that's the one. St. Louis plus 12 and a half against Michigan was
Oh
my
yeah.
loser. Thank you to the Bills. Thank you to, you just can't pick the Bills in any sort of playoff situation. Then again, against Georgia worked out pretty well. So that'll do it for this episode of the Need for Speed's College Basketball Podcast. You can follow us, Betting the Pitch Apple Podcast, and on Spotify at the real underscore G Warner on YouTube. At Big East Ben is where you find all the tweets, all the love affairs with um, sitting in the back of some classrooms studying the political science recruits at Alabama or Instagram models at Florida, or just really a nice moral take on how married men should not be approaching women on Instagram. Would you have like to say anything else about that, Big East Ben?
Yeah, I mean he got what he deserved. An early exit. If we had to deal with a pervert winning back-to-back national champions, I don't think the sport could survive it.
Dang. A man who was getting mad at everybody for throwing dirt on the grave of the NCAA tournament, saying it was dead, to then saying the sport can't survive a double-double pervert winning back-to-back titles. All I know is I'd just be really afraid of what shirt would be on B. Ben's chest next weekend in Indianapolis. If you are out there, feel free to shout us out. I'm gonna try to find the shirt. I've been trying not to wear it because it shrinks every time I wash it, and it literally was. How do I put this? It felt like I was wearing Baby Gap last year, but I'm gonna try to wear it again. So we'll see what
You're in better
happens.
shape now, right?
Yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, gravity's doing its work at this age, so we're doing the best we can, but we'll see what happens, and we'll see in Need for Seed shirts out there while we try to get pictures with John Fanta, just to show that we're slimming and he's growing, and more maybe Jarrell McNeil and others, and maybe John Henson makes a nice comment about Biggie
John
Spence.
Fanta even show
Moss.
up to the Final Four? He's been tweeting about the freaking NBA recently.
I don't know. I heard he was sitting in the back of political science classes at Alabama, so I'm not really sure. And that'll do it for this episode of the Need for Seeds College Basketball Podcast. We'll see you for the Final Four. We'll probably do an episode before we get out to Indianapolis, but we'll be checking in back then. That's all I got. Anything else you want to say, Biggie Spen, or is it time for
Well,
this?
you don't want to do a live episode on Friday? You want to
No,
do it
we should do that, but I think we should do one while we're getting ready for it. Like Monday
Yeah.
or something like that.
Ah,
All right.
ah.
That does it for the Need for Seeds College Basketball Podcast.